Shinku has officially arrived in Neverness to Everness, bringing an incredible aesthetic and a very unique playstyle. In this video, we are going to dive deep into her mechanics, break down her absolute best build paths, and share some first impressions on how this S-rank agent holds up at 0 awakenings. Let's start things off by talking about her gear setup. When it comes to weapon options, her signature arc, Blushing Mirage, stands at the top of the list. If you are looking for an alternative, a fully refined fluff of ferocity from the Battle Pass performs exceptionally well, trailing the signature by only about 13%. Other viable options include Camellia Society or A Time Will Come, and if you happen to have Chaos signature arc lying around, that works perfectly fine too. For her module choices, you will want to farm the Lost Radiance set. Your main priority for the cartridge slot is Critical Rate, which is universally her best main stat. Shinku gains massive value from Type 3 modules, which grant 16% crit damage each. By optimizing your grid layout to fit 4 of these Type 3 modules, you can easily secure a massive 64% extra crit damage. For your substats, focus heavily on Critical Rate, critical damage, damage percent, attack percent, and flat attack. You can actually slightly overcap her crit rate if you maximize her bond, include a Tukjong character on the team, and roll crit rate on every module. So feel free to trade a crit rate substat for damage percent if needed. When leveling up her abilities, always prioritize her basic attacks first, followed by her ultimate, then her skill, and lastly her support kit. Now let's break down how her abilities actually function, because half of her kit is quite straightforward, while the other half requires careful positioning. Shinku functions as a primary main, DPS who thrives on generating blossom and triggering charge reactions. Her most defining mechanic is her gaze system. Gaze stacks up passively while she is active on the field, but only during moments when she is not actively attacking. You can also build these stacks by executing successful dodges, provided you do not follow up with a dodge counterattack. At 0 awakenings, you can hold a maximum of 8 gaze stacks. The moment she unleashes an attack, she consumes all available stacks to deal a massive burst of damage while simultaneously restoring a huge portion of her Esper, cycle gauge, and ultimate energy. It is absolutely crucial to note that swapping Shinku out of combat will immediately wipe all accumulated gaze stacks unless you manage to unlock her first resonance effect, which requires pulling 3 extra copies. Fortunately, you can easily max out these stacks before a fight even begins, or simply wait around inside Beyond the Rail stages to pocket your stacks before engaging. Once you get past the gaze mechanic, her basic attacks follow a standard 5-hit sequence, and her skill is a simple tap ability with an incredibly short 3-second cooldown. Her ultimate is where her true damage potential unlocks. Activating it transforms her into a demon form for 13 seconds, changing her basic attack string and granting her access to a high damage super skill. Filling up the gauge for this super skill is essential, and you can achieve this by executing basic attacks during her ultimate, consuming at least 3 gaze stacks, or triggering charge reactions. When paired up with Nanali, Shinku can reliably dish out about 5 super skills before her form expires. During the final moments of the ultimate, pressing the ultimate input again allows you to execute up to 3 powerful dash attacks. Timing is everything here, so make sure to land all 3. When the timer completely runs out, or if you manually trigger it early, she fires off a massive laser beam that looks spectacular, though its actual damage is relatively modest. Looking at her passives, her first passive allows charge reactions to restore energy to the entire team while boosting Shinku's attack by up to 10 stacks when she is active. This is precisely why she needs to be run in specialized charge teams. Her second passive boosts her damage output against non-boss targets, while her life skills provide a nice bonus to cafe management and improve efficiency for the little sparrow. Mahjong minigame when burning city stamina as an awesome exploration bonus. Holding down your dash button lets her sprint at incredible speeds through the city and even run up walls. Building the right team composition around Shinku is vital for maximizing her combat loops. A premier team setup features 0, alongside either Hathor or Skia, and rounded out by Nanali. Juven or Mint 0 is an absolute must-have because her skill instantly maxes out the Esper gauge, allowing you to trigger Esper cycles back-to-back, without 0 cycling through. Blossom and Remora to force consistent charge reactions becomes incredibly clunky. If you choose Hathor, she will extend the duration of the Remora effect and grant a 10% crit rate bonus against affected targets. On the flip side, Skia is a fascinating alternative. You can equip him with a speedy set and Sakuri's signature arc, Good Boy's Grand Adventure, because his ultimate easily fulfills the weapon's passive requirements to provide Shinku with a massive personal damage buff. Finally, for your Blossom applicator, Nanali stands out as the absolute best choice. Nanali cuts down the intervals between Blossom drops to just 1 second, aligning perfectly with the internal 1-second cooldown of charge reactions. While Juven doubles the Blossom hits, they land simultaneously, meaning you ultimately end up generating about half as many charge reactions compared to what Nanali offers. Mint lands in a similar boat, making Nanali the clear winner for enabling Shinku's true potential. To tie all of this together, an optimal rotation starts with Shinku building her gaze stacks to maximum before entering combat. Open up with her skill, then pause briefly without attacking until she accumulates roughly 4 gaze stacks again before hitting her skill a second time to fully max her Esper gauge. From there, swap to Hathor to activate Remora, drop her ultimate and skill, and then immediately switch to 0 to drop her ultimate and skill as well. Next, bring in Nanali to drop her ultimate and skill to initiate the Blossom drops. But make sure to swap off her quickly so Shinku can take the field. Once Shinku is back out, pop her ultimate, aggressively loop her basic attacks and super skills. And right before the transformation ends, unleash the 3 consecutive dash attacks to conclude with her signature laser. If you are substituting Guia in place of Hathor, the sequence remains practically identical, simply using his ultimate and skill right after setting up the initial Remora trigger. Reflecting on Shinku's overall spot in the meta, it is clear the developers put an immense amount of care into her design and visual options, while she delivers great baseline performance at 0 awakenings that easily rivals other top-tier damage dealers. She does feel a little clunky without proper team support. The absolute dependency on 0 for smooth rotation cycles can feel restrictive since so many teams fight over her. Losing all your gaze stacks upon a mistimed character swap can also be frustrating, especially since retaining them through swaps is locked behind her resonance dupes. Other useful quality of life perks, like gaining super armor to avoid getting interrupted during her ultimate, are similarly tucked behind her awakenings. However, even at base value, her open world movement is incredibly satisfying, and initiating fights with maxed out gaze stacks shreds through standard map enemies with ease. She is a remarkably fun, well-balanced damage dealer, who brings a lot to the table without completely breaking the game.